Welcome to the Floor Education Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. We're here to talk with contractors from all across the country about the issues that matter to you. This week's guest is Rachel Berlin. Rachel joins us from Plymouth, Wisconsin, where she's the sales manager at Precision Floors Decor. We talk with Rachel about how to become better at sales, suggested books, goals, accountability, and so much more. You won't want to miss this. Rachel Berlin, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Welcome to the Floor Education Pro podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, 100% my pleasure. This is going to be an interesting journey because you are not a contractor and we're generally geared that direction, but I want to get our contractors some education in a different area tonight, and I think they will find it very enlightening.
Sounds good.
So why don't we start off and get a little background on you?
Okay. So like Kyle said, my name is Rachel Berlin. I am a sales manager for a flooring store called Precision Floors Decor, and we are located in Plymouth, Wisconsin, which is a part of Sheboygan County, if you're familiar with that area, about an hour in between Milwaukee and Green Bay. I've been in the flooring industry for over 13 years, so I have a little bit of background in the sales side of things, but like you said, I do not have a background in installing or the contractor side of things.
Well, you know, we can work on that. We'll fix you. Don't worry.
Sound good.
No, so I'm just kidding. It's honestly, everyone has a role and it needs to be filled. So I will be the first to admit that as I'll take care of you. I'm going to be your salesman. I'm going to be your installer. I'm customer service when my clients call if a transition comes loose because I didn't get enough glue on it. Thank goodness that very rarely happens, and I get very little callbacks, but they do happen. But I'm all in one. So as a guy that wants a store but doesn't quite have one yet, and anybody that's out there selling their own jobs, us as contractors, we're really good at the technical side of the business. We're not necessarily good at the sales side. Let's talk sales. What am I trying to do when I'm in a home? It's been a very slow journey for me of learning. So, you know, where do we even start when we enter that home?
Yeah, I would say, you know, a good thing to do to start with is, you know, number one, just try to ask a couple questions about them. That customer, especially if you're in their home, they've just invited you into a very, I guess I would say, private space. You know, they don't invite everybody into their home, but, you know, once you're in their house, you really want to get to know them on a one-to-one basis. And, you know, as much as selling is about giving them this product, you also want to build that relationship with them so that they know that you care about them and that you're going to do the best job in their home. And, you know, if their little son or daughter is hanging out, you know, around and watching, that you're still going to be nice to them and that they're going to feel safe while you're working in their house. So I think it's building relationships. Number one is going to be your best bet. You know, don't just dive right into that selling part of it.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's my favorite part. Honestly, I got into it. I went out on my own and I was like, I just want to install floors. This is going to be so great. It's fun. I get to do something I love. My favorite part now is walking into somebody's house and saying, hi, how are you? Oh, you have a dog?
Right.
Tell me about your dog. I would love to learn about your child. What's going on with you? What do you do? I just love learning about people at this point. And if I get to install their floor, that's a bonus. But I couldn't agree more. That's the first key point is let's go, let's learn about them, find out what makes them tick, and then we can better service them in every other area of their life because we understand who they are as a person.
Absolutely.
I think my second favorite thing is finding the little kids. I love when
Oh,
there's
I
a little
know.
one around and I can, especially when I'm installing, if there's like a stay-at-home mom and there's
Mhm.
like a 3 or 4 year old around, maybe a little bit older, I love being like, hey man, you want to help me out? Like, come help me put this board in.
Oh,
And then they get to,
that's great.
they really, then they can, dad gets home later in their evening and they're like, daddy, come here, come here. And they're like, look at this one right here. I put this in. And
Oh,
so it's built, like you said, it's all about building those relationships. Like, I don't want to sell. I mean, I do, but I want to build that relationship. I want to make them feel like they are the most important thing in my life at that time because they truly
mhm.
are. That's what matters to
Right.
me at that point.
And you have so much of a better chance of getting that job of, selling that project if you've connected with them on some level, like you said, with the dog and the kids. It's like you can look around their house and you can, maybe they have some sort of a plaque on their wall, or they have, a sports team that you can connect with. Like that to me is, you're going to get a little bit deeper into something that doesn't relate to the flooring necessarily, but you're going to see them light up. And then when they want to tell you all about it, that's when they open up and they become more of your friend, or, it becomes more of a relationship that way and they trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome.
People always want to talk about themselves. I think one
Definitely.
of my best clients was I noticed that they had a scouting uniform, a Boy Scout uniform in their closet. And I was able to say, hey, I'm a den leader for my son. Like, you have this old uniform with an eagle patch on it. What's
Hmm.
that about? Oh, my sons, they earn their eagles, this, that, the other thing. I was the scoutmaster, and just this whole long story about it. And I've been able to stay in contact with them and call them up for information that I've wanted to know about Cub Scouting and say, like, hey, I
Oh,
want to
that's
do this with
awesome.
my kids. Like, what can I do? But
Hmm.
like you said, it's all about people want to talk about themselves. You need to look for the little cues. Don't be fake. Don't
Right.
take this the wrong way. Don't be fake and get into a conversation about something you have no interest in. But you can
Right.
definitely look around their house and take cues. If you see that they have a Labrador Retriever and you have one too, that's a great talking point. If you
Oh, for
notice that
sure.
there's Legos in the little kids' room and you have a little kid, you could talk about the Legos. Like there's going to be
Hmm.
you just need to look for those little cues and they're going to love talking about themselves way more than you. Always give them leading questions that they can continue to answer and you know, keep they're going to think you're a great conversationalist if you can just keep them talking about themselves. It's really funny. They think you're the great conversationalist, but they did nothing but talk about themselves.
Exactly.
So, what else can we do when we're in there? What else are we, we're going to have to talk some flooring, but I don't want to, do I need to get really technical? Do I have to explain the difference between a WPC and an SPC vinyl plank flooring, or do I have to get into like the do I really need to know those nitty-gritty details?
I think it's good to know them, but I don't think you don't want to, I don't want to say this and sound gross, but you don't want to puke all over them with all of your knowledge about every single thing that you know about. So, let's just say you ask them a question about their family, and I think if you can relate it back to what they told you, and you can say, before you mentioned that you have, 3 kids, and that they don't take their shoes off in the house, I really would like to recommend this type of flooring because XYZ. It's going to hold up much better. It's going to be more scratch resistant. It has a more of a mill wear layer on the top. You don't have to get into the specifics of it all, but if you can relate it back to something that they said, I think that really, number one, it shows that you're listening. But number two, it also gives them a little bit of reason. Why did you pick what you picked, or why are you suggesting this over that kind of a thing? So relate it back to their lifestyle.
Yeah, that's huge. You need to listen because you don't want to hard sell anybody on
Mm-mm.
something that just because it's a more profitable product for you or something like that. You don't need to go in and hard sell people on that. Being able to listen. I mean, it goes back to just men even understanding women
Mm-hmm.
is you need to listen to what they're telling you and then put it back into your answer. You're feeling this way. I understand you said this and you're looking for this, so this solves this problem.
Right.
It's very simplistic, and I think sometimes we try and make it too complicated, and you're worried about the psychology of it and how can I influence somebody to do this. And those are all great things, and there are books out there to do that, but there's
Mm-hmm.
such a simpler way to do it where you're genuine and you're honestly interested in what someone's telling you, and you can listen to them and, like you said, just give them that answer back and say, you said this, these things will work for you.
Right. Definitely. And, it positions you as, I think, more of an expert if you can, not go into the details necessarily of all the different, all the things that maybe about. But yeah, it really just, if it can relate back to that person, you're basically just kind of completing the circle, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. So, we've got some basic salesmanship here, and those are great. Where can we go to build off of that?
Are you asking, different about like
Anything.
what kind of training thing?
Yeah. Where can I, what have you done to become better at sales over the past 13 years?
Oh my gosh, so much. Okay. Well, first of all, podcasts. I listen to podcasts almost from the moment that I wake up in the morning until I get to work. So I work in a showroom, so I have to be paying attention to what's around me there. So I can't listen to podcasts necessarily there, but definitely listening to great sales podcasts. If you are on iTunes or any of these, I'm sure you know about them, but those are great. I am right now reading a book called Never Split the Difference. It is a great book so far. But also, there are some really great training, sales training tools available on LinkedIn, I've found. And then also I would, just recommend to, I love Jeffrey Gitomer. That's another, I have his Little Red Book of Sales. And there's also, he's got a ton of different books that he's written, but just his tips and tricks that he has are just incredible, when it comes to sales and just getting to know your customer and things like that.
Okay. So top 3 podcasts you listen to.
Oh gosh, that's really hard to say. Well, this one, of course.
And then... No, come on. I haven't even been around long enough, but thank you.
All right,
thank
fine. I actually listened to The Contractor Fight is one of like my very favorite podcasts. I actually probably started, that was one of my very first podcasts that I started listening to. And then, what is Jeffrey Gitomer's called now? They have a podcast as well, Sell or Die.
Okay.
That's theirs. It's between him and his wife, Jennifer Gluckow and Jeffrey Gitomer. And the third one, oh gosh, you're going to put me on the spot here. Let me come back to that one.
Okay. No, that's fine. So those are good places to start, guys and gals. Top 3 big sales book in your life.
Let's see. I would have to say, if I can say the Little Red Book of Selling is that is really my favorite book. The next one that I've read most recently, it was by Brené Brown. Now I gotta think of the name. It's on my iPad and I don't have it in front of me. Actually, probably anything by her are really, really great. And then Atomic Habits is another one that I know it's not like directly sales related, but to me it was, because you can relate it to any kind of habit that you either want to grow or you want to maybe get rid of. So Atomic Habits was amazing.
Okay. No Dale Carnegie and How to Win Friends and Influence People?
That is one that I have it on my list, but I just haven't read it. But have you read it?
I did. I recently listened to it, and I'll tell you what, because I'm installing floors at the same time that I'm listening to a lot of this stuff, I try and glean a maximum of like 10% from it. And I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again. But there was so many things, so many. It was an amazing listen. There was way too much at once. I would love to dedicate the time to read things and take notes and highlight. I would love to become that kind of student. It just does not fit my lifestyle at this time. And so the fact that I can get any education in, I think, is more important than just saying, well, forget it, like I won't do anything. I think that's the number one thing, especially for I know that this podcast has taken off. There's a lot of guys listening to it and gals like yourself that aren't necessarily installers, but you're still listening to it because it's industry related. You're interested in the content, and that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Education is key. You've got to educate yourself on something. I don't care what it is. Get a book, get an audio book, find a podcast, find a website, do something at some point in your day. 10 minutes, start there and educate yourself and just move forward from there, because it's going to make a difference in your business, in your personal life, just anywhere. And so
definitely,
that's what I want to champion. It's just like, it's called floor education for a reason. We need that continuing education.
Definitely. And, I would even say, as far as, the Facebook groups, I mean, gosh, if it wasn't for those Facebook groups, I wouldn't have probably ran into you. I wouldn't have met many of the people that are in the same industry. And the great thing is that you can ask them something that you're struggling with, or even in one of those groups, and you're going to get advice from people that have been in the industry much longer than you. You can get into a private conversation and maybe even get a little bit of, that is like a mentor right there. Like, that is really what it's all about, because you're able to just bounce ideas off of one another and get a great amount of information for nothing. I mean, you're not paying anybody in that Facebook group usually. But I mean, you're going to get amazing, you can really just get great advice, and it doesn't take anything more than just asking the question. And I bet you somebody else had that very same question. So you're all going to be learning together.
Totally. It's, you know what? There was a video posted in the Flooring Installers of America group at one point where I believe Ken Ballin, I think we talked about this in another episode with Billy Graham. So Ken Ballin went and made a video of how to scribe that last piece of laminate or vinyl plank up against a wall. And you take it, you put it up against the row that is already installed, you pull it back a little bit, you put a piece up against the wall, you run your pencil down that piece as you pull it along the wall, and you get your cut. And there were guys that had never seen it before. And that's like day one stuff when you teach an installer. There's guys out there like measuring every 6 inches and like marking the board and stuff still, instead of just like, oh, I can do it this way, it's real quick. And so even though it's day one stuff to a lot of us, when we teach a helper, like, hey man, when you hit a wall, this is what you do, there was guys that hadn't seen it before. And so there's not, you always hear that there's no dumb questions, and sometimes people are like, oh, there's always dumb questions. Well, okay, maybe. But if you don't know the answer, it's not a dumb question to you.
Exactly.
You've got to go and seek out that information. And these groups have been phenomenal on just being able to learn and get quicker access to information. And you can see what other markets are doing and where their prices are at and what products they're moving. And it blows my mind what's even capable. That's where this podcast came from. Was I realized that there was a lack of people sharing ideas and information and education, and I said, "Oh, I can do that. I know how this recording equipment works. Let's do this." And so
Yeah.
it's just been, how can we further the flooring industry as a whole? And it's been phenomenal. People have received it well. It's been great. But I want people to see that just because we're not doctors and nurses and things like that, or teachers, like, we still need continuing education. Just because you were doing it this way for 20 years doesn't mean that's the way you should still do it. There's definitely
And wouldn't you be so happy to learn a newer, a faster, maybe not faster, but a better way to do something? You know, I know people say, like, you know, smarter, not harder, but, you know, that is really kind of what it is. It's like, if you can learn something that will save you some time, and you're learning it from somebody that's, you know, a trusted professional as well. And there may be some not so great advice that comes around here and there, but at the same time, I mean, that really is invaluable. I mean, you're really getting to the I don't know what you want to say, like, your education is really growing, you know, leaps and bounds for not a lot of money or time, you know, spent, other than just asking those questions in those groups and using the authority that's around you. So
Correct.
It's great.
I mean, you're probably going to be messing around on Facebook anyway, so you might as well try and get something out of it. And then, yeah, you're right. There's definitely bad info out there. There's going to be guys that don't necessarily know industry standards or want to take a shortcut. And so you need to decipher the information you're giving. You need to have your own BS filter and work your way through it. And you can definitely, there's better trusted individuals out there, but those are going to be the guys that you can look to for mentorships. And you know, don't find somebody, I forget where I heard it, but what I've heard recently is you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with most.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm an installer right now, and I want to make sure I own a store and have a couple crews, maybe a salesperson or two, a foreman to check on the crews, things like that. I want to be able to build a bigger business than just me. If I continue to hang out with the guys that I came up with in the business that are like complacent where they're at, how am I ever going to have that influence and knowledge to get where I want to go?
Right.
So I need to go find the people that are past that point. Maybe they're not, you know, super huge Fortune 500 companies, or they're not the companies that are doing 50 million a year, things like that. You know, I'm not going to go talk to the CEO of Empire. That's not who I'm after. But I can go find a guy that maybe has owned his store for 2 or 3 years. That's perfect for me. He's just been through it. He's going to be able to point me in the right direction so that I can hopefully not make some of the mistakes that they made. So I can get those abilities quicker and move on. And so I need to surround myself with the people that where I want to be. And that's going to make the difference. And so even from that salesmanship perspective, go find a couple of salespeople that are really good at it and hang out with them. They're probably more than happy to point you in the right direction, teach you a thing or two, let you know what's going on. If you are an installer and you don't have a job for the day, but you sub out of a shop, or you know that there's a local store, go build a relationship with them. Go in there, stop in, say, hey, do you mind if I talk with some of your salespeople in their downtime and, like, you know, try and learn a thing or two, and maybe I can teach them something about installation and homes, and, like, you both can learn from each other. And so there's going to be a give and take.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. Definitely. I mean, and like you said earlier, you know, people like to talk about themselves. People like to teach things to other people that they know about, that they're experts in. So, you know, it's kind of, if you can teach them alongside of them learning, I mean, that's a win-win for, I would think, both.
Oh, definitely. Anything we can, most likely a relationship's going to go both ways. It's very rare that someone is always the giver and the other person is always the taker in a relationship. And
Mhm.
if you find yourself in that relationship, there's most likely a problem there. You're
Right.
probably trying to, if you're always the giver,
Mhm.
that's not necessarily the bad thing. Like you generally should try and give more than you take. But if you're always the
Right.
taker, there may be something deceptive about that relationship in that
Right.
that person is going to maybe try and hold it over your head later, and they're trying to buy you and own you and really hold something over you. So
Exactly.
you need to be aware. And it's not that there's not good-hearted people out there that will just give and give and give and give and let you receive, but you'll see things along the way if they're going to try and get you into that situation. So just be
Right.
aware. But I think relationships generally should go both ways. And as long as both people are trying to give more than they take, you're going to be in a solid position.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And there's even I know that probably within the installation realm of things, there's like mastermind groups that, I mean, I just attended one in this past week, and it was different flooring dealers, and it was a mastermind group, and just some of the things that you learned when you were just networking amongst other people in this room, it was just amazing just to learn, from others that are literally in a similar position that you are, but also that you're not in competition with one another. You're really just, you're there to learn. So it
Hmm.
was, if you can ever get involved in a mastermind group such as that, or a sales mastermind, if that's what you're looking to learn about. I know, like my local chamber, they call it a sales roundtable, and it's people from all different industries, but the topic of conversation is sales. And you always walk away with certain ideas and different, things to try. It's just all about learning. And that's, just through my local chamber, it's free of charge. It's a couple hours of your time out of, 1 month, and you always walk away with a good amount of information.
Amazing. That's interesting. I would have to look into my local chambers here and see if anybody had anything like that. I know one thing that's been instrumental for me, I haven't gotten a lot of business out of it. I joined a BNI networking group this year in February.
Hmm.
I helped launch it from the ground up. So we are still a very, very new chapter. We haven't even hit a year
Okay.
yet, obviously, but that's changed how I've been able to do business, because now I have some other people in the trades that I know do phenomenal work, and I can trust them,
Yes.
and they're going to treat my clients the way I would treat them. And so when my clients come to me and they say, "Hey, do you know anyone that paints?" Yes, I do. I have someone.
Yes.
I will have him call you later. Here's his card. He's gonna come in. He'll walk you through it just like I would. And so, but
That's
even
awesome.
just being in the group and having to give a weekly presentation about my business, I was, if you put me in a room of 50 people right now at like a party, I would probably clam up and stand in the corner and not talk to anyone. But the minute you put me in a room and you say, "You're the flooring expert, go at it," I can do that. I'm now in the position of authority. I can talk
Yes.
about it. I feel much more comfortable. And so from that perspective, I've seen it change how I interact. I knew I needed to do something like that to help grow my business, especially to get it where I want to be and own a store and things like that. But
Hmm.
it was, I don't want to do it. I'm not comfortable. I don't want to go talk to people I don't know. And I had my bookkeeper actually got me involved, and she was like, "You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do." I was like, "Fine, I'll just go." But it's been
And aren't you so
instrumental.
glad you did?
I am. I am. It's been a blast. I actually, our IT guy that is in our group, he has grown so much in front of everyone's eyes, and I don't know that they've noticed. When we started the group, he would stutter through his like 30 to 45-second business commercial on like what he does. And now he can stand in front of a group of 25, 30 people and give it flawlessly. And he's super comfortable. He's our vice president now. He has to give a report with a PowerPoint every week. And so for him, even though we're not necessarily exchanging a ton of business with each other yet, because the group's still growing, there's other intangible things where people have grown as business people. They're more confident in their own abilities that they're able to take away from that. And so, sure, it's expensive to join a BNI group. I dropped $1,100 for 2 years, but I've taken away so many other things. I have friendships. I have personal and business relationships I've made. I'm more confident as a business person. So I think, if you can search for a BNI group in your area or something similar, like you said, look into your Chamber of Commerce, and just go find somewhere to learn and grow and become a better person. Change yourself and start on the inside and work your way out, and you're going to be so much better at this business. It's, it's so funny. We started at sales and how do I make sales? And now we're talking about like interpersonal development. But
and it's all related.
It truly is. But it's just, I always find a lot of these podcasts so funny because we start at one place and we end up at like the 180 of it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and something that you said earlier, it just like popped into my mind. And I think this goes with anything in your life, whether, you want to get into shape or if you, want to get better at sales or if you want to get, be more confident, be a better speaker. Like if you've ever seen that little diagram, like all the good things happen outside of your comfort zone. So if it's going to make you a little uncomfortable, there's a pretty good chance that you're probably going to get better. You're going to, if you step outside of that comfort zone, the chances of you growing are much greater. And I think we all say like, oh, I wish I would have just done this sooner. Like I'm sure you said it with BNI. Like I wish I would have joined this sooner. I could have been, building these relationships or gaining more business, in that way, if you would have started it sooner. But it's all in timing. So I think it's just, get uncomfortable with a couple of things and you really, that just means that you're growing.
Correct. That's totally correct. You have to be uncomfortable to grow. If you stay in that comfort zone, you're not pushing yourself. You're not learning anything. So, actually, I don't remember where I heard the story. There was a guy and he was talking about a language class he was taking. It was like French or German or something like that. And finally the teacher was like, you have to take this one. You're no longer allowed in this class. And it's because he got proficient enough to like kind of understand it, but not push himself any further. And so, he could understand the basics and communicate enough, but not fluently. And the teacher finally was like, you're no longer allowed in this class. If you don't come take this class, you can't come at all. And so the teacher forced him into that.
Pushed him out of his comfort zone.
Correct. You need to go here. And he was totally thankful for it because now he's fluent in the language. But he was never going to step outside that box. So, and
that's what a coach does, right? That's what a mentor does. They push you outside of your comfort zone. They might test you a little bit. I think that's kind of one of those things where you're like, well, if you have a mentor that's in your same industry or even like a business coach that you can work with, I mean, they're not going to let you be complacent. They're going to definitely push you to do things that you may not be comfortable with. And that's only going to be for your better good.
Correct. And I don't even think, like you could have that mentor, you can have that business coach. And a lot of times I think people get lost in the fact that they try and find that mentor in the exact same industry as them.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to do that. You can find someone that's successful in business in general, and they're going to be able to lead you in the direction you want to go. They're obviously doing something right because they're a couple steps ahead of you. If that's where you want to go, find out how they made those couple of steps.
Exactly. Yeah, and even having somebody to be accountable to, I think that can be helpful. Like I said, I was at this mastermind group and or master class, and I talked to a couple of people, and they were like, oh, I really want to start a blog, or I really want to, maybe like you, start a podcast. And I was like, well, when do you think you're going to start it? Well, I don't know. And then I was like, well, how about January, like January 1st? I was like, if you want me to keep you accountable, I'd be happy to.
Mm-hmm.
And, a couple of them, we're friends on Facebook anyways, or we're now friends on Facebook because of this group. And, I'm looking forward to keeping somebody accountable and having somebody keep me accountable.
Totally. I think one of the biggest things on that same vein, when I started my business, I printed out 2 years worth of goals. And it wasn't a lot of goals, but it was, I want to do X amount of dollars in business. I want to be able to buy a trailer. I'm going to make sure that I have advertising. I want to have a helper. And then I broke down how I would do it. Okay, I'm going to work harder on pushing more products so that I can hit a higher revenue. I'm going to work on learning sales better so I have more work so I can hire a helper because I'm busy enough to take someone else's livelihood in my hands. And I had my major goals, and then underneath them, I broke them down in subpoints. I printed them out. I put them on the bulletin board where I keep track of all my jobs, and I have to look at them. I look at them constantly. It's multiple times a week. I see these things and say, oh, I'm not working on that. Well, and sometimes that's it. Sometimes it's, oh, I've been so distracted. I haven't been working on that. I need to get back on that. And now I'm running out of those. Those 2 years are up. And I definitely, I know I fell short on year 2 revenue goal, but I also set it crazy. I set a revenue goal for year 2 in business at $320,000.
Yeah.
I've been a one-man band. There's only 52 weeks in a year. Like, it's possible. I did the numbers. I can theoretically do that much business in a year. But that was a big, lofty goal, especially after only setting year 1 at 80,000. So,
right. Oh yeah.
That was a big jump, but I planned out.
You had it in front of you.
Exactly. And year 2 is definitely more successful than year 1. Put those goals out there. Hold yourself accountable. Print them out. Make sure you can see them. It's crazy. You see people in like movies, and they'll put the inspirational saying on their mirror so that every morning when they go to the mirror, they see it. That stuff matters.
Definitely.
It's
like having a map.
Exactly. You're going to get yourself from point A to point B. Yep.
If you don't have that even on your radar, or if you're only thinking about it in your mind, but you don't actually like speak it and put it onto paper and put it in front of you, the chances of you reaching those goals are so much less. I mean, what do they say? Like, if you just, if you're just talking about it, you're not actually putting it into action. It's just like a dream, it's not actually a goal. It's not something that you're, and you can reverse engineer that. Like you said, breaking it down from the 52 weeks of the year and taking that big number that you see, and then you can break it down week to week, day to day, whatever it might be. And you can really kind of get it down to like a very I don't want to say easy to manage, but it's a lot easier to manage something when you see it from its broken down state to that huge number, or that, that huge goal that you might have.
Correct. $320,000 sounds overwhelming, but if I break that here, I'll pull up my calculator. Let's see here.
I was just going to say, somebody do the math.
Okay, so I got 320,000. I only want to work 50 weeks a year. That's 60.
Give yourself a vacation.
That's $6,400 a week. So if I can, I'll be honest. I try and I bid my jobs based off of if the labor on a job comes in at $5,000, I tell my client it's going to take 5 days. My goal is $1,000 a day. So in order to hit 6,400, that just means I need to sell the material on that job, and the job needs to be 1,400 square feet.
Yep.
So it's definitely a doable goal, but I have to be busy 50 weeks a year. Maybe I sell,
or you raise your prices a little bit.
Well, you can do that too. There's definitely ways to manipulate it. So
definitely, yep.
But when you hear $320,000 in revenue, like, it sounds insane. That's a lot for one person, but it's not when you break it down. So, and then okay, I got to work on hitting this number. Okay, I missed it this
Mhm.
week, but I can push harder and I can try and land a bigger job that's going to sell better material, that's more profitable, and I can make it up. So,
Or you have to talk to more people. You know, you have to have opportunities to be in front of people more frequently. So like the BNI group, you
mhm.
know, those kind of things are always just giving you more opportunities to potentially, you know, have them think of you in their time when you say, you know, a perfect referral for me would be blah, blah, blah. And then they really, you know, that's going to give them the opportunity to share your business with their circle of people. So,
Yes. I mean, and I don't even, I'm really bad. Like, I don't track my closing rate. I don't have a CRM that I use or anything like that. And so at the end of this year, what I need to do is go back and look at my 2018 numbers, and I'll look at how many jobs I landed, how many estimates I did, and say, okay, I
mhm.
closed X percentage. And then I can look at 2019 and do the same thing and say, I closed X percentage.
I
And
bet it's better.
I sure as heck hope it is. I really, really do. It's is that, or I did raise prices this year, so it could be worse, but I raised prices and could have more revenue. But I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
it's better because I'm definitely learning. But there's, you need to look at these numbers, folks. Like, they're very important. You need to know what it takes. We just had an episode on pricing, and we talked about you need to know
Mhm.
your numbers on what it takes you to keep your business and home life running so that you can run a profitable business. You
Yes.
need to know what your closing numbers are, because if you want to hit $320,000 in business and it takes you, if you only have a 10% closing rate and it takes you 10 estimates to land that $5,000 job and that $1,400 in material profitability number, well, that's 40 estimates a month you need to do to close a job for every week. That's a lot of
Mhm.
estimates as one person. You might want to,
Yes.
maybe you need to lower your prices a little bit so that you can land more jobs easily and you can work on getting higher quality jobs next year. So maybe your number's 250 this year and you lower your rates a little bit to bring in more jobs, and then you work on higher quality stuff next year. Like, you've got to know your numbers to know where you want to get.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you get to play as the sales manager. I bet you play with that stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah, and it's, you know, it is. It's really, it's a numbers game, but it's also just understanding like what are some ways that you can not get creative, but how can you increase that number, or how can you make this work for you better? Of course, if the average sale is higher, you know, you don't need as many
Mm-hmm.
jobs. And obviously, as a one-man installer, you know, if you're doing this on your own with a helper, you know, there's only so many hours of the day. So perhaps increasing the price is, you know, a good way to do that. But, you know, it really does come down to setting those goals and then, you know, breaking them down and reverse engineering it to get to a little bit more manageable day-to-day or week-to-week steps.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's just one step at a time, everyone. Don't overwhelm yourself. Set a couple goals. You can set a couple easy ones, set a couple hard ones. If you hit the easy ones within a couple months, set a couple new easy ones, and you have that entire year to work towards those hard ones. So don't don't overwhelm yourself, don't kill yourself, and you can go crazy like I did. I set $320,000 as a little tiny business guy for year 2 in business. I'm not going to hit it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that because I'm still kicking butt. I'm doing good. I'm profitable. My family is fed. The bills are paid. Things are good. There's extra money in the bank. Little goals.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to do okay. You don't have to hit it just because you set it, but set something. Put something on paper.
Right.
Hold yourself accountable. Talk to other people. Have them hold you accountable and get there.
My last suggestion is always to follow up. That would be my
Oh,
my suggestion when it comes to sales, and when you are getting into, you know, those customers' homes. Just communicate and follow up. Don't let them hang out there and not talk to them and leave them out there forever without a phone call back.
Can we not
following
talk about
up
this?
Is uh-oh.
No.
Did I hit a sore spot?
Yeah, that's the one area I seriously lack in, and Rachel is 100% right. Everybody, follow up is 100% key. I'm horrible. I'll wait a week after I send the estimate. I'm not a in-home estimate guy. I tell them I'm going to go home. I'll work up the numbers. I'll email it to you. I send them out after a week, or I send them out that I generally get them out same day. I hate them sitting on my plate, so they'll have them in their inbox by like 9-10 p.m. that night. If I don't hear anything within a week, I'll shoot a follow-up email. I'll keep it in my inbox, and I'll either give a phone call or another email a week after that. And if there's no reply, I delete it. And that's the end of it. I don't have time. I got to move on. I got to go forward. So there is some follow-up, but there's not relentless follow-up, and there's not like an automated CRM system to send out a reminder in 6 months of, hey, are you still interested in this? And so I'm sure from that perspective, you probably have a lot of insight.
I think once you have that store that you're going to get better at follow-up. I have this feeling that
that's a
in
big
a couple
difference.
years from now when we talk and you're like, hey, Rachel, I got that store. And you're going to be like, I got really good at follow-up and I have a really great system. Just have a system in place for it.
So,
don't just wing it. Have a system.
What's your system? What's your follow-up look like so that we can have an idea of something we need to do?
So definitely if we are sending out a quote, we call the customer that day or the next morning to make sure that they got the quote. And then if we don't hear back from them in 2 days, we send an email. And then we have a text messaging option as well. That we can just make sure that they, it's the communication that the customer chooses, but, then another phone call would happen or email would happen after that within about a week to find out if they're still interested. And usually by that time you've gotten a hold of them. I mean, there isn't like they don't fall off the face of the earth. But that is really my follow-up. But I do use a calendar, like Google Calendars, and there's a little thing that you can put on your phone called reminders. You can set the date. Google Calendar is really, I think it's even called tasks maybe, and you can set those on your calendars for them to, for it to pop up on your phone to remind you, especially once you have a larger client base, that's going to be important to keep that organized. So
yes.
I have a lead management system for our store. Obviously with 5 salespeople, that's kind of what you need to have. But, as you grow, you'll find out a system that works the best for you and, just making sure that you have something and not nothing. And then I think you'll be successful.
I agree. I set reminders in my phone for delivery dates, estimates, everything else. Why can't I do it to follow up? I think the thing that always amazes me most is that I'll send out, hey, are you interested? I just wanted to follow up, and you don't hear anything. And you get these people that email you 9 months later. We're ready for flooring.
Right.
Okay, I haven't talked to you in 9 months. I don't remember you or your layout or job. And what do you mean you're like, where'd you come from?
And then you say, thank you. I'm so glad.
Correct. Can I come look at it again? I'd love to just reconnect.
Let's review.
Yes. So, but it's interesting. Like you couldn't, why, I don't know. It's with all the technology in the world and how much easier it is to communicate. I think there is a breakdown, and that's why I kind of slack on that follow-up part, is because people just take it for granted. Like I gave you my time to do this free estimate, and I wrote it up, I sent it to you, I tried to follow up with an email and a text message or a phone call, and I left you a voicemail, but they just ignore it because it's so easy to communicate if they wanted to. And I think a lot of people want to avoid confrontation. Like they think you're going to get into it with them and ask them, why are you going with the other company? Is it price? Like, and honestly, I
Right.
would love some answers to those questions because I want to build a better business. I would love to know, am I too expensive? What did I not educate you enough? Like, what was it that made the difference? Why did you select them? But I would love to do that in a professional way, but I think there's probably a bunch of people out there doing it in a way that has put everyone off, that they would rather just ignore the phone call.
I think if it's you doing the estimating and you're doing the, you're in the home, you're doing the estimating, you're probably feeling like you're too close to it. So, like, you have that bookkeeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe that person can be the person that reaches out to the customer if you don't get the job, and they just say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm our store's like experience manager. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And then just, we just wanted to find out, we understand you didn't go with us, but, just wondering if there was something that we could have done better, or was it based on price, or, just sometimes separating yourself from that could get you some answers.
I need to get my wife used to talking on the phone. She hates talking on the phone, but that would be a very good thing for her to do.
Yeah.
Maybe
Just
I can
gather the
convince her.
information,
Yes. Correct, because you're always it's sales is research, and you're not going to get better at it without research. So there we go. We tied it all back together.
There you go.
Oh, all right. We are running super long. Rachel, this has been an absolute blast. I have totally enjoyed this. I think everyone's going to be able to get a lot out of this episode. So
Awesome.
let's wrap it up. Go ahead and give me who you are, your business, where people can find you. If they wanted to reach out to you personally, if you're willing to give any of that info, we would love to have it.
Yeah. So again, my name is Rachel Berlin. I am our sales manager at Precision Floors and Decor in Plymouth, Wisconsin. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can either find me on Facebook. It's Rachel Berlin, or go to our Facebook page, which is Precision Floors and Decor. Also, we do have a store phone number, which is textable. But if you're going to reach me, I'd probably say do the Facebook thing. Otherwise, our whole entire store might see it on the text message. But we do have a great Facebook page. We have an Instagram page, all under Precision Floors and Decor. I'll even go as far as to, if you want to reach me directly, I can get you my email address, which is Rachel, RACHEL, at precisionfloordecor.com.
Awesome. Once again, thank you so much for all of your insights. This has been thoroughly enjoyable for me and challenged me as a business owner. And so, like I said, I think everyone's going to get a lot out of it, and we couldn't have had a better guest.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody sets some goals for themselves, including you, Kyle, and hit those goals and just write them down.
Put them where you're going to see them. Tape them to that mirror in your bathroom if you have to do it, everyone.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to subscribe so you can listen to each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you would like to be a guest or have questions, you can email us at flooreducation@gmail.com. Remember, your education never stops.